Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Aging and Spirituality podcast. We are so happy you're here. I'm your host, Kathy Lee Taylor, and your co-host is.
Chris Jensen. So glad you're with us. This is going to be a
Yeah,
good
here
one
we are
today.
again. So much fun, so much fun. We love doing this for you, in case you can't tell. Today is a subject that is one from a podcast that I've been listening to. I was telling Chris before we got online. I feel really fired up about this. I called it How Spiritual Rebels Stay Human in a World That Is Trying to Make Us Be Numb.
Mm,
We're going to really dive into the question of how do we stay, think about this, listeners, how do we stay spiritually connected to each other, to the earth, and to what's sacred when so much around us is pushing us toward being isolated and towards nationalism and toward literally towards numbness. They
mm,
want us to be in a fear state so we can't respond.
mhm.
So, this is a challenge when you're on the spiritual path. We have a lot of challenges on the spiritual path, but this is a big one, I think, right now that people are really struggling with. Like even the subject of empathy, and please chime in at any time, Chris, when I'm talking about this particular subject is one of your really strong suits. This idea of empathy is being attacked. When I heard this on the radio, I was like,
Mhm.
you gotta be kidding me. Like powerful voices are calling it dangerous to be
Yeah.
empathic.
Yeah.
Calling it woke. Come on.
Woo.
Like, can you believe it? Like tech leaders talking about we need to escape to colonize Mars. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't Mars inhabitable? Like last time I checked. Like this is, like political leaders urging us to shrink our circles of care to just our families, or maybe just our nation. Like that whole idea of
So,
global,
yeah.
right? Scares the crap out of them.
Sure it does. Yeah.
So spiritual people are, we're left asking questions like, what does it mean to really hold on to compassion and that global connection that in our hearts we all really want to have in a world that's trying to convince us
Yeah.
that having those things is means you're weak. Okay, well, first of all, you're not weak.
Yeah.
Please know that. I mean, if you're feeling like you're overwhelmed or you're tempted to shut down emotionally just to be able to cope, look, you are not alone. A lot of people feel that way. A lot of people are having to take breaks just to keep their heart safe,
Mm,
keep their spaces
mm,
sacred, so whenever you feel that way, take the time for yourself to regroup for sure and then get back into the fight. So this episode is really going to be talking about how do we reclaim that empathy and as a spiritual strength, not as what you're being told that it's a weakness, something that
yeah. How could that
you're
possibly be a weakness? It's just,
exactly because they want us to be in fear,
right.
so you have
Right.
to resist that.
Mm,
Resist that fear-driven narrative, and also remind yourself that this planet Earth, this gorgeous planet that we all live on, it's worth fighting for, and it's worth fighting for each other. So just try to remind yourself that. I know it gets exhausting sometimes. So, oh, we're facing something that I actually listened to some writers by the name of Naomi Klein and Astra Taylor, and they were talking about it being the end times fascism in this podcast that I was listening to.
mm,
And that meaning that it's a mix of religious extremism, tech-fueled escapism,
mm,
and ruthless survivalism. Think
mm.
about it. That's
Yeah.
exactly
Interesting.
how they set the scenario up. So
Wow.
we constantly stay in a state of fear. So I got the idea from this podcast, and I'll mention the name. It was Movement Memos with Ostra Taylor, and I highly recommend that you listen to it.
Mm,
But here's what the movement looks like, and it kind of explains why we are in this current environment. So some of the political leaders behind what's going on right now are tied to Christian nationalist beliefs that see that the apocalypse is not a threat, but they see it as a destiny.
mm.
That's why this is happening,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Tech moguls like Elon Musk openly talk about leaving the Earth because it's a trap to stay here while he's pouring money into AI and space travel instead of solving the problems that we have right here, right now. At the same time, empathy is, as I said, being rebranded as weakness. I mean, there are books being written about toxic
Oh my
empathy.
God. Yeah.
I know. Be aware of that. That's crazy. Like influential voices on the radio, mostly now, because TV and that whole world of media is changing so much. They are saying things like, "Oh, you only need to care about your own people." This, in case I have to tell you this, that goes counter to our spiritual teachings. That is not what we've been talking about forever.
Right.
It's not necessarily harmful to care about your own people, but it's not going to answer the yearning in your heart. And I'll talk about that
Yeah, our heart
bit
yearns for,
for bigger.
for connection, for that
Yeah,
connection with everyone. And,
yes,
some of that stuff is right out of Hitler's playbook,
it is.
right out of it.
It is really scary that way. So I think it's safe to say that some people on the planet right now are having trouble agreeing to globalism. No question about it. So spiritually speaking, and this is in my opinion, this is dangerous because it disconnects us from from the very qualities, I should say, that make us human, and that's care and
And empathy.
curiosity and the awe of life itself, right? You take so much out of the world when you take those things out. So I want you to pause, dear listener, and ask yourself this question. When was the last time the news or social media left you feeling like turning inward, closing your heart off, or saying, I just don't care about this anymore, or I can't care about this anymore because it feels so overwhelming. It just is, it's complicated, it's overwhelming, and we wonder, how can I keep going down this horror road? Like, isn't this over yet? Isn't this bad dream over yet?
Mm.
Really, it's hard, and we want to acknowledge that. And, if it's happened to you lately, which chances are it has, just know it's not a moral failure on your part. It's how the system is designed right now. And for whatever reason, and I'm certainly not going to try to explain, have no idea why this is going on in our country the way it is right now. But, just remember fear and overwhelm are tools that keep us isolated and they make us reacting to things instead of creating, right? Is the opposite.
They always give you someone else to blame for whatever's ailing.
Yes. Yes. And they don't want you to have the time and space to be creative because you're going to imagine bigger worlds that don't want to have to deal with. They want to keep it small for them. That's how power plays it out. So here's the truth. Why it's important to be kind of a spiritual rebel. Empathy isn't soft, it's a spiritual power. When you have empathy, you are spiritually strong.
Mhm.
It's a step toward solidarity, and that is precisely what the architects of this division, the people that are running in the power now, fear the most. They don't want us to have that solidarity. When empathy is attacked, it's because it threatens the machinery of dehumanizing people, which is exactly what they're trying to do. If I can feel your pain, even if you're across the world, even if you don't
Yeah,
look like me, I can't be convinced that you're disposable.
yeah, you can't, it's like you can't do that to another human being. You can't do these things. So they
We
have
can
to
we
dehumanize you. Yeah.
exactly we find it hard to talk about because it's so far out of the sphere of how we live and how we believe. What are
Mhm.
you talking about? People being disposable? Are you nuts? Like, oh my gosh, on a human level, it's just really hard to even fathom that we're having to talk about this stuff, but this is where we are.
This is where,
So this is why fascist ideologies vilify empathy. They don't want you to think it's a good thing. They want you to believe compassion is a weakness and that some lives just aren't worth saving.
yeah, that's the big thing. Like
Yeah,
some lives are worth more than others,
right.
And
And they're the judge of, of who that is.
right, right. Yeah.
Yeah, but as spiritual people, we know empathy is what keeps us tethered to the sacredness of life.
What sets us above the animals.
It does.
And of course,
It
not even many animals have empathy, but it really is one of the things that takes us from animal to human.
to
And
human
spirit.
differentiates us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about every major spiritual tradition when it comes to this. Christianity is called as love thy neighbor.
Mhm.
That wasn't about nationalism. Buddhism's compassion teachings include all sentient beings. Indigenous wisdom traditions see the earth, animals, and people as interconnected kin, something I've been really looking into and enjoying lately. Natives understood the wholeness of the universe.
And with yoga, the heart's true feeling is the love that you feel inside is that same love for everyone. I mean, it's that.
The
And there's,
wholeness and the equality of humanity.
yeah, there's a state in yoga called mahat in which you sense that the energy, the purity of your inner self, your soul, is the same energy within everyone else, every living being on the planet.
So beautiful. So focusing on empathy is really how we return to these truths. It's more important now than it has ever been. It's how we resist the push to see ourselves as isolated beings, like consumers and,
Mm.
survivors hiding in bunkers. What kind of a world is that? It's insane. Like these tech people out, building these bunkers in New Zealand because they have a sense of what the heck they are creating, and
Mm.
they're doing it anyway. So, dear listeners, let's take a moment. I know this is kind of a heavy subject, so take a moment, take a big breath in right now.
Mm.
Let it out slowly and just relax. Lift your shoulders and say peace, and let them go down and say release. And just say to yourself, whisper to your soul, I choose to keep my heart open. My empathy is my strength, not my weakness. Remind yourself of that. So again, we look at this question of why is empathy under attack now? Because we're in a moment of overlapping crisis. Think about it. We have climate chaos, we have political instability out the wazoo, and rapid technological disruption happening all at the same time. Is it any wonder that we feel overwhelmed all
Mm.
the time? There's just so much change, rapid change going on at once. And when people are afraid and they're untethered from that meaning, the sense of connection to purpose in life that they have, it becomes easier to manipulate them. And
Mm.
powerful people are doing exactly that right now. They're manipulating the general population precisely because they want something from them. They know their actions are unpopular and they can't win by following the democratic path for sure. So they are creating chaos and they are darn good at it. A
Mm.
lot of us are walking around with what one writer called a God-shaped hole, longing for purpose, connection, and something bigger than ourselves. And that is a normal thing. I remember walking into the yoga center in 1982 with that same
Oh, yeah.
yearning in my heart, right?
Yeah.
It's very, very true. But our younger generation are facing so much more now than we ever were then in terms
Mm.
of what's
Yeah.
going on in their chaotic worlds. But, unfortunately, um, so much has been hijacked from our younger generation. And boy, we're sorry for that. Like tech cults are promising salvation through artificial intelligence, thinking that that's going to assuage what is going on, you know?
Like that's going to, and I was talking to someone that I worked with previously, and he just left a very well-paid job because he said, I've been working for my family, my most of my life. I want to work for humanity now. And he said, and he said, the big thing at this company is AI. And he said, what people don't realize is that they're going to use AI to entirely change the workforce.
No doubt.
He said,
No doubt. The workforce, the financial industry,
yeah,
they're trying to change everything, trying to collapse the system that we know at this point.
yep, yep, exactly.
I wanted to leave. That's how you really know that this plan of chaos and destruction can work, because
You
with
will.
faith or not, that yearning's not going. We're still the same people.
Hmm,
We're
yeah,
still going to have the same calling.
yeah,
Still going to want the same things, and we're going to find our way back to it when this chaos settles down.
mhm.
So religious extremists talk about end times as if suffering is proof that we're close to paradise. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. People,
Well, it's a way of
people,
trying to make yourself feel better, you know?
yeah, both the lure people with both
Hmm.
extremists lure people with their story. The world is collapsing, but if you follow us, you'll be among the chosen to survive.
Hmm.
Kool-Aid, anybody? Like what?
What about everybody else? Yeah.
Yeah, what are you talking about? Oh my gosh. Spiritually, this is dangerous because it replaces grounded living spirituality with escapism. It's no accident that billionaires fantasize about Mars or digital consciousness while neglecting this living, breathing Earth. Think about it. Elon is so hell-bent on getting to a planet that isn't even freaking inhabitable.
Hmm.
What?
Hmm.
So here's the counter story that should make you feel better. It gets better, it gets lighter now, guys.
We want to get lighter. We're ready.
We don't need to escape. We need to ground ourselves more deeply in the present moment. That's the answer. Ground ourselves more deeply in the present moment. Because being in awe is really an antidote to despair. If you're feeling despair, try to find something that you can be curious about, be in awe about, get into a sense of wonder about. We remember how um, this planet is really like miraculous. Think about it, that being alive is really miraculous. When we think about those things, we stop wanting to flee and start longing to protect what we have. We fall back in love with the earth and the people on the earth. And so we're not coming from a place of fear anymore. So I invite you to really try this simple practice, like tonight when you're about to have dinner or going to bed or what. Just step outside and look at the sky. Feel the air on your skin and whisper, I am here. This world is sacred. I choose to say, I choose love.
That
Remember words.
choosing love is the answer
Yeah.
because love is all about giving of yourself and it's all about the connection.
Yes.
It,
So
always,
figuring out how to express that in every moment.
you know,
So, so the idea of spiritual rebellion in this moment means rejecting the fantasy idea of having to exit, whether it's bunkers or being on Mars
mhm.
or falling down the rabbit hole of AI. It really means anchoring ourselves into the here and now and saying, this planet is holy ground. Our lives matter, and we are worth saving together. And we can do this by expanding our circles of care beyond our families and our borders. Don't worry about what everybody's saying about globalism. Expand your borders. Defending empathy when it's mocked or dismissed. Stand up and say what it means to you.
Yeah.
See activism as a
Just
spiritual act.
express it. It affects people. When you are
That
empathetic, people feel it and they respond.
they can't help but feel the energy, right? It affects them
Right,
on the spot.
right.
And
And they
hopefully,
respond. They'll always respond to it.
yes, yes. So you have to become a daily empathic spiritual energy provider, whatever that is. So hold the line and get out and make your voice heard. Spiritual people are so important right now. We can make a big difference in how people are experiencing this chaos and reminding them to come back to love, come back to your center, come back to your soul.
And the way a spiritual person does it, it's not with anger, it's not with pointing a finger at somebody else and saying they're wrong,
Mhm.
because then you're just like them. I always think of way back when there was a line in a Bob Dylan song that was very transforming for me. And it was fearing not I become my enemy in the instant, my own enemy in the instant that I preached.
Mm,
And so you want to come from a spiritual place, from a loving place, from a place of empathy.
yeah. So it's so true. Thank you for saying that. Like arguing with people, trying to convince them to be different is a waste
Not
of
gonna,
time.
not gonna do
Not
anything.
gonna, not
Totally.
gonna do anything. Yeah, Naomi and Astra had this phrase, committing to hear. I love that idea. It's saying, I refuse despair. I refuse to be numb. I refuse to abandon this miracle
Mhm.
we've been given, this world.
Mhm.
So ask yourself, what's one way I can commit to being here this week? We just gave you one, and that's choosing love in every
Yeah.
situation, responding with love in every situation. But what resonates for you? What can you do that'll make a difference in your world to make you feel more centered and more whole? It could be things like donating time to an organization or helping with wildfire victims or joining a climate cleanup or just simply talking to a lonely friend or a neighbor that
Or
needs help.
just help doing any gift of yourself.
Mhm. Every grounded act of love pushes back against the myth that we are alone. We are not alone.
Not alone. That's right.
Don't let people convince you that.
Mhm.
So here's a few tools if you have a pen and paper, want to write one of these down, or just grab the one that you think is good. Because I like to give you a few tools just in case you're wandering through your week and you forget. God, I don't forget what you said. Like what are the things that I can do in this moment when I'm feeling chaotic and lost? Here's a good way to start out in the morning, and I call it morning awe. Just begin every day by noticing how beautiful the world is. Maybe just
Mhm.
one thing, name it out loud.
I
Like
love
I'll pick up
that.
my drum now and go, oh, feels so good.
Yeah.
Just
Just
just punching
open
my
the door.
guitar for a while. My drum feels really, really nice for a while. Do that one thing, acknowledge that beautiful moment into your life at that moment so you can open up the door for it for the rest of the day, right?
Mhm.
So, and expand your empathy. Pick one story or person each week outside of your immediate circle to hold in compassion. Pray for them, meditate on them, send them love. That's really a great one to do. We
Oh,
do that on a daily basis, sending people love that way, often who need healing, you know, mental, emotional, physical healing. That's a great way to expand your own ability to have empathy as
that's right.
well, right?
Mhm.
Digital boundaries. Think about this one. Limit the exposure to AI-driven content and social media that feeds the fear or the feeling of being numb. Curate something different that nourishes your spirit. Literally, you have to force yourself to get away from your damn phone. Put it down. Put it on Do Not Disturb for a bunch of hours, during the day. Get one of those apps that cuts you off from your own stinking phone if you don't have if
Mhm.
you don't have the guts to just turn the damn thing off, just cut yourself off from it so you can live your life like you used to before you had a stupid phone.
Mhm.
Like remember what's important to you.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time we didn't carry this thing around with us everywhere.
Not that long ago either.
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. Yep.
Uh, Another tip is community care. Join or create small circles in your community. They can be book clubs or meditation groups or activist teams, something that has a shared purpose and it heals that sense of
And
isolation.
it's
Something
uplifting, you know, it's uplifting for you.
in places where you can get support if you need it too.
Yeah.
And use activism as a prayer level. Every small act of service at, or resistance as sacred. Lighting a candle, for example, signing a petition, planting a tree, it all counts. Don't think just because somebody's not there watching you doing it, it doesn't matter. It does matter. Your energy matters. All the energy matters. You can make a difference every day with these little actions. Okay. So as we close, I want
You're
to,
gonna feel better.
you're definitely going to feel better. As we close, I want to invite you to take a deep breath with me again. Just bring up your shoulders. Breathe in, sense peace. Breathe out, let your shoulders drop and release. Just silently say to yourself, I choose empathy. I choose connection. I choose to be here in this sacred world and protect what is beautiful.
And I choose love.
Yes, choose love. Always choose love. I like that saying. Thank you for joining us today. If this episode spoke to you on some level, please go to YouTube, subscribe, like, and share with a friend, because I'm sure you can think of somebody that could really benefit from this particular um, talk.
Mhm.
I mean, really, together, this is how we do it. Together, we're going to hold the line on what's sacred, our shared humanity, living on this planet, the fierce and tender empathy that keeps us human and keeps us connected to each other. Okay. So, like Chris said, always choose love. Until next time, stay grounded, be brave, and keep your heart open.
For being with us. Bye.
See you next week.